我悪鬼羅刹となりて目の前の敵すべてを切る。
Back in the early 2000s, there were few games that kept my interest more than fighting games. Most were your basic 2D fighting titles since my PC back then wasn't much of a powerhouse. These games were simple enough to learn at the time and didn't require much time investment. Back then local multiplayer ruled supreme and fighting games were among the best that gaming at the time had to offer. Among those titles were the Samurai Shodown games, a series which my mates and I heavily invested our time in. Unlike its contemporary, Samurai Shodown isn't a multi-button combo heavy experience. It places heavy emphasis on each move, slash of the sword, or well-timed parry. Standard light, medium and heavy attacks still apply, but you won't be comboing them together. Instead, it's imperative to make each move count. These are games where button mashing and rush play is easily punished. It's a defensive ordeal whereby you're only as good as your ability to defend, counter, and time your attacks. So enter Samurai Shodown for the PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox One, Arcade, Stadia, and Nintendo Switch. This entry should feel familiar to veterans of the franchise. It's not exactly the same as what we played in the 90s, but the changes aren't substantial enough to alienate the core audience. You can still do perfectly timed blocks, sidestep attacks, grapple, disarm enemies, and demolish their health bar in about 3 well-timed attacks. Along with the 3 primary forms of attacks, you can also add kicks into the mix, which are quicker than the regular attacks but don't deal as much damage, or special moves with the help of specific directional inputs. More than anything, Samurai Shodown is a game of ebb and flow. Every aspect of it is a careful balance of risk and reward, like the weapon flip moves, devastating moves that if landed can do a sizable amount of damage and even disarm your opponent. Executing them involves use of the rage gauge located in the lower corner of the screen. This builds up slowly when performing timed blocks or receiving damage. Since perfectly timing a low or high block is obviously challenging, it places a lot of pressure on the defending player. As more damage is dealt, the flow of the battle sways in the favor of the player being damaged and thus keeps both players honest throughout each round. The rage gauge can also be used for a lightning attack once per match. When used, it drains the entire rage gauge for a single attack, which if landed deals a significant amount of damage in reflection to how low your health is. The lower your health, the more damage you'll do. The big risk to using this though is that it will cost you your rage gauge for the rest of the match. So using it in the first round will leave you without it in the second or third. You're also able to use a super special move once per round which doesn't cost you any rage meter but requires a complex input to execute. Every move in the game is blockable so no playable character feels overpowered, thus emphasizing the risk and reward nature of the game. Even when disarmed, the player can even the tide of battle by grappling the opponent's weapon and kicking them to the ground. Visually, this is a good looking game. It's not going to blow your mind like BlazBlue or Dragon Ball FighterZ, but what SNK have here isn't too shabby. With its use of 3D models with a 2D perspective, we get a game which looks visually similar to the likes of Street Fighter 5 and 4. Yes, there are some lower resolution textures than those games upon closer inspection, but it's not likely you'll focus on them while trying to perform during the excellent Unforgiven battles. Backgrounds are also 3-dimensional and feature a decent amount of detail in both docked and handheld play. In fact, the game holds up pretty well on the Nintendo Switch no matter the configuration you prefer to play it in. All praise aside, there are some issues with this game which require closer attention. Despite its excellent gameplay experience, Samurai Shodown sees itself falling into the same pitfalls that most modern fighters adhere to now. That being the artificial limitation of character rosters, then including the missing ones as DLC in a season pass. Since most fighting game players blindly buy into such garbage practices, developers keep doing them to the detriment of the genre. At this rate, we'll soon be buying games with just 2 characters for full price with multiple $20 season passes. With a measly cast of 16 playable characters, 3 of which are new and 6 others listed as DLC, it's difficult to not be disappointed. Like other fighting game devs, SNK are drip feeding players new characters at a premium, and that's not even the half of it. They're all from the previous Samurai Shodown entry, a game which featured 41 playable characters, while now we're being drip fed those same characters for $4.99 a pop or $14.99 for 4. For those whose favorite characters already in the game, they're fine, but everyone else is manipulated into going along with this nonsense if they're hoping to play the game. Now don't get me wrong, I don't actually mind DLC when it's done right, but when it's in such an egregious form, I can't help but feel a sense of disgust. Back in the day, devs used to take pride in giving us more content while expanding on their previous outings. Now it's about how much they can take out and sell back to us, a practice that's no more apparent when you get the game and see a character in the same game but locked off behind a paywall. That's not added content, it's artificial exclusivity at its worst. This practice is one that I'll be revisiting with my review of Mario 1's Justice 2, which will be up soon, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure you don't miss that particular review. Samurai Shodown also has a decent amount of modes to keep the player occupied, however, most are not fully fleshed out. Story mode is basic with only 6 cutscenes, 4 of which are repeated for each character. There's nothing to unlock except artwork and the cutscenes, no color swaps or characters. Everything else is your standard fighting game affair, with Dojo being the only outlier, an asynchronous battle mode where you fight CPU ghosts created from player data, but it doesn't work. The ghosts lack any skill and seem like 5-year-olds mashing random button inputs out of frustration.
ダメ。壊してあげる。つまらない。
勝者四季
So, with all I've had to say so far about this game, here's my final verdict. Samurai Shodown for the Nintendo Switch is a game that I actually like playing, but unfortunately cannot recommend in its current version. I'm genuinely happy to see the series return and hope it sticks around for many years to come, but I can't condone the lazy DLC practices of the developer. It's a good looking title which runs well, plays even better, but should only be picked up when there's a special edition with all the characters for a standard price tag, and there will be one, so be patient and wait. Thank you very much for watching our review of Samurai Shodown for the Nintendo Switch. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to leave us a like and a comment in the comment section below to let us know what you think about this game, and if you'd like to see more content like this from us, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll always know when we put up new content.
黄昏や両の手に咲く曼珠沙華
勝者橘右京